Carla Gericke, and she's joining us right now. Carla, thanks for being here today.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
I got to say something about her. When I first got into all of this trying to save Ross, a friend, Harlan Dietrich, said, I'm going up to this festival in New Hampshire and I'm going to hand out flyers. And I'm like, well, I'll go with you. And he said, I'll hand out flyers. And he said, no, you should speak. And I'm like, no. And then I was very happy to hear that the deadline was over and they weren't taking any more speakers. But I was very relieved. But then it turned out they were going to make an exception for me. This is when Carla was in charge of all of this. And not only that, they gave me Saturday biggest pavilion and gave me my chance to really talk about Ross and his case in a deep way, and to great people. And Nick Gillespie happened to be there. That brought me onto Reason TV. And I just ended up doing a lot more. I was able so much more to communicate. And that's because of Carla and because of PorcFest and the Free State Project. And I'm so grateful to you guys. And you're just amazing freedom fighters. You're great.
Thank you. Now I'm going to cry. Thanks.
We can both cry.
Well, Carla, we're glad to have you here. And so we want to get your perspective. You see what is going on with Ross. You see what's happening in our society. And I understand that by training, you are a lawyer. What do you see happening? Is it moving toward the good side, or are we doomed? What are your takes as a lawyer and as a lover of freedom?
You know, I think on a federal level, we are close to doomed. I certainly think on a state level, there is work that can be done. Of course, that's why we have the Free State Project. That's why I'm passionate about it. It's why I moved to New Hampshire from New York City. You know, New Hampshire ain't no New York City. So in some ways, you know.
But I know you got all those books there behind you. Are you in New Hampshire now?
I am in New Hampshire. In fact, my husband is running a hackathon upstairs. So I'm downstairs in the library.
Oh, okay.
And you know, so I think, I mean, we need criminal justice reform. We obviously need to end the war on drugs. People think Trump might be able to drain the swamp. I am not as optimistic as other people. I think the swamp is undrainable. I think the swamp sucks, and we should try to get as far away from the swamp as possible.
Can we quote you on that? That sounds tweetable. The swamp sucks.
The swamp is full of monsters. And, you know, so I spent my time with the Free State Project. You know, we're trying to concentrate people who are lovers of liberty in one place. I handed off those reins after we triggered the move this year. And I actually brought a prop because Lynn mentioned Nick Gillespie, who did the interview with Edward Snowden at Liberty Forum this year. Liberty Forum is coming up next year, February 2nd to the 4th. Lynn will, of course, be there again. And I think we're going to be doing some of these videos. Of course, anyone, I'm sure Tatiana, James, you know, Terry, all of you feel free to come. You know, it's no Anarchapulco, but, you know, we still have the best game in town. It's equally fun.
Really good people there.
It is fun.
Just
great
not
event.
As warm and beachy. But, you know, we had Edward Snowden, who, of course, talked a little bit about Ross's case. But I had talked to Nick before the time, and, you know, Nick's very esoteric, and he was kind of going down these intellectual roads. And I got really concerned that he wasn't going to get to Ross. So we had these Snowden masks that everyone was using, you know, and I talked to Ed before he came on the air, and I had to warn him, hey, you're going to look out into a room with, you know, 500 people with a mask of your face, so don't have a heart attack. And that was a sweet moment. But, you know, Nick was going on, and I was like, this is a really important question. This is something I want recorded. This is something we need to talk about. So I had a Sharpie with me. If you're a good conference manager, you always have a Sharpie with you. So I had written, I hope you guys can see that. And I was just sitting there.
Show us again what you have. Show us again what you have. Wait, Ross. All right. I love it.
So I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, we're running out of time. We have to, you know, I really want Ross to be part of this conversation because his issue is so important. So I sat there with the sign and I just kept sticking it in front of Nick's face until he talked about it. And of course, there we learned from Snowden that, you know, he feels very confident that there was, illegal surveillance that took place, and then that was part of the way that they sort of got him. So as an attorney, I'm really hopeful that we will, see some of these issues come out on appeal, that we will really be able to delve into the criminality of what happened here. It was not a fair trial, and, it hopefully we'll see some great results on appeal. In the meanwhile, I think we need to be spreading this message. I grew up in apartheid South Africa. I was part of, I was an anti-apartheid activist, and in the late 80s and early 90s, we saw the big Free Mandela movement, and I really want to see the Free Ross movement get there. And, we need to think about ways that that can happen. And I think for that, we're going to need a lot of international support.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of international support, but of course we need more support worldwide. And like Mandela, Ross's case represents so much more than just him. And so I agree, because it represents so many important things. And there's a video of that event that you talked about with Edward Snowden on our website homepage, and he said it's unthinkable that the NSA was not involved in this case, in this investigation, which is illegal. And I found out just recently that one of the corrupt agents, who's now in prison, Sean Bridges, was working for the NSA at the time that he was investigating Silk Road, which I thought was a very interesting piece of fact.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
The corruption is everywhere.
The NSA is not allowed to spy on American citizens, but I've been told it's common for them to do that, then to feed the information to the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, who then creates a parallel construction, another story about how they found the evidence, which is not how they really found the evidence.
Yeah. No, I mean, we all know that shenanigans are there. It's a travesty, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is that the legal term for it? Shenanigans?
It is when you haven't practiced for a while.
That's exactly right.
And I know you need to get to other guests, so there were just a couple of other things I did want to mention.
Please.
I started writing to Ross about a year ago, and we exchanged letters, and sometimes we miss each other because he's moving around for his trial. But I want to encourage people who are watching this, or if you watch it later, go to the website, get the address, send him just a postcard, send him a letter. I think it's really important for anyone, who's been in the Army, or I was in boarding school. And it's just nice to know there are people out there who care, who are passionate. If you're a graphic designer, maybe you can make like really cool postcards that we could put out, so he's getting postcards, and he really knows that it's about the support from the outside, but that there's not that much pressure on him to respond to everyone. Because I imagine that's also kind of hard. I know when he got my first letters, he was kind of like, who's this weird woman and what's going on? And I had to be like, dude, I don't want to marry you. I have a husband and I know your mom, so just really so that he can feel and understand that there are a lot of us here who really care about him. And then I wanted to just read, it's just one sentence from a letter. It's very generic. I know I talked to the lawyers, and they've said, they don't want us to share things, but I think this will be fine. And I'd like to leave on this note. So this is from one of Ross's letters, and he says, however free or unfree you find yourself, it is always possible to become freer. And in one way or another, it is the spiritual journey of each person to strive evermore for liberty.
Right on.
All right, very profound. Well, Carla, we appreciate what you're doing, what you've done, and for joining us today. And matter of fact, we'll have our own cards here. Thank you, Carla. We appreciate that. Dude, do you like our fancy graphics that we have there, Carla? That's something?
It's almost as fancy as mine.
Yes, it is. Carla, someone says, hey, I want to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Find me on Facebook, Carla Gericke. That's Gericke. Check out freestateproject.org. Also, my new organization is the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. And as I said to Ed Snowden, I hope one day Ross can come live in a free and independent New Hampshire.
All right. Well, Carla,
Down the
thank you so
list.
much. Again, thank you
Thanks,
so
guys.
much for who you are, what you've done. We appreciate all that.